Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I have a couple questions. One about how we pass on intelligence from the FBI and the CIA to our military intelligence, how you gather your intelligence and pass it out. And two, I want to ask a question or two about the Vice President's shoot-down order and how it was conveyed and why it was not executed in terms of passed on to the pilots. First of all, back to the original question. We've heard time and time again about domestic threats and terrorists potentially getting a hold of an airplane and using it as a weapon. We had extensive testimony from Richard Clark at the NSC, where in 1996 in the Olympics, he's so worried that the terrorists are going to either commandeer a plane or somehow use a plane as a weapon against that venue, that he goes to the unbelievable extent of lashing up Treasury, Secret Service, having sharpshooters out of helicopters that can at least shoot at an airplane that might be coming at the Olympic Village. That threat is very real. We continue to hear, however, from so many of our witnesses that it wasn't contemplated, it wasn't possible, it wasn't really in our exercise. Were you aware, General Eberhart, when you came into this job in your position, that that effort had taken place in 1996?
No, sir.
Were you aware today when you walked in the room?
Yes, sir.
Why weren't we better prepared at that kind of a training posture?
Sir, I think the most important message is I wish we had been. But at the same time, I can tell you that we didn't have any what we call actionable intelligence that said that you need to change your posture, you need to change your orientation, you need to do all the things that we've since done. As we look at all the threats out there that we postulate, and many at the rostrum up there know this, we can't develop that capability across our government, across our federal forces, or we break the bank. We break the bank. We have to take those things that we think are most likely and prepare for those. And tragically, we were wrong here. But the important thing to note is that this is not a zero defect operation. I mean, at this very minute, if somebody wants to take off in a small airport in Kansas and fly 5 or 10 minutes and crash someplace, I don't care what posture we develop, we can't preclude that. We can't preclude that. Nor do I think the people, the citizens, want to preclude that, but it's cost prohibitive, and what it does to our freedoms and our liberties is something that we're not prepared for.
Well, let's go on to the second part of the question then, when we really do have information, at least a possibility that information is being conveyed from the Vice President to NORAD that we have a threat out there. And this is so surprising, so shocking to some people that I believe it's Colonel Marr decides not to convey the Vice President's order on to the pilots that are circling around Washington. Now, it may be highly unlikely that they could have done something given that 93 has already crashed, but the fact is it was not passed on to those pilots that were protecting the city. How long would it have taken to authenticate that if the colonel decides to pass that on at a later time? Why didn't he at least attempt to say to those pilots, this is a very tough thing to understand, but here's what the Vice President of the United States has ordered for our military to consider for a specific target in Washington, D.C.?
Obviously, I'd be speculating about what Colonel Marr, why he made that decision.
You haven't asked him this in an after-action report?
We have.
What did he say?
There was great concern that morning, Commissioner, on my behalf, on Larry Arnold and Bob Marr as the chain of command goes, that we were very concerned about the ability to shoot down a hijacked airplane. But frankly, we were just as concerned about making a mistake. And if you think this is an interesting session here this morning and what you've been through, had we made a mistake on that morning or subsequent days, I would offer it has a much different context.
Meaning that you shoot down the wrong airline.
Exactly. So that was at the forefront of Bob Maher's concern, is we don't have a confirmed hijacking right now. Let's make sure we clearly understand this order, convey it properly, so that in fact we do not make a mistake.
Wouldn't eliminating the possibility of mistake be better enhanced by starting that order rather than introducing it as soon as you have, the possibility of making a mistake? Doesn't the possibility of making a mistake and gather likelihood and possibility increase the later you introduce such an unusual order into the system?
I don't believe so. I believe that if you qualify and transmit that order in terms and in language, in the lexicon the pilots will understand, then you reduce the chance of making a mistake.